Britain just got a new prime minister, literally just happened. His name is Andy Burnham, and he is the seventh person to hold the job in the last 10 years. And one of his predecessors stayed in office for less time than a head of lettuce stays fresh in the fridge. Literally, that's not a joke or a metaphor. It's a real story, and I'm about to tell it to you. My name is Anastasia. I'm a 19-year-old entrepreneur, and I run this channel about history and politics. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like. You can also support the channel through the link in the description so content like this comes out more often. In June 2016, British voters chose to leave the European Union, an event everyone now knows as Brexit. The Prime Minister at the time, David Cameron, had campaigned against leaving. When the country voted the other way, he walked out to face reporters the next morning and announced his resignation. From that moment on, prime ministers in Britain started replacing each other one after another almost without a break. Every one of them showed up promising to bring stability, and almost everyone left even faster than the last. In September 2022, Liz Truss became prime minister. She proposed a massive package of tax cuts with no real plan to pay for them, and financial markets reached instantly and brutally. The pound crashed, mortgage rates peaked, and the whole country felt it in their wallets within days. The British tabloid, the Daily Star, decided to have some fun with the chaos. The paper launched a joke survival contest between a head of lettuce and Prime Minister Liz Truss. And the leafy vegetable won, outlasting the Tory leader in office. Truss lasted 49 days in office, the shortest prime ministership in British history. To understand the scale of this, let's walk through the whole chain. After Cameron came Theresa May, who spent 3 years trying to push a real Brexit deal through Parliament and eventually resigned too, unable to get it done. She was replaced by Boris Johnson, whose popularity collapsed over what Britain now calls Partygate. Parties held inside 10 Downing Street during strict lockdowns. At the exact same time, ordinary citizens weren't even allowed to visit dying relatives. After Liz Truss' brief run, Rishi Sunak took over, and he couldn't hold onto public trust either, losing the 2024 election. He was replaced by Keir Starmer, and today, exactly 2 years later, the job pays to Andy Burnham. Of the 6 prime ministers who took over after Cameron, none of them made it through a full 5-year parliamentary term. This isn't bad luck. Britain runs on a parliamentary system, which means the ruling party can swap out its own leader, and therefore the prime minister, without holding a general election at all. All it takes is an internal vote inside the party. That's exactly how Burnham became prime minister today. There was no national election, his own party simply chose him as its leader. And the next general election isn't expected for another 3 years. Economists and political scientists consistently point to Brexit as the root of this instability. Leaving the European Union weakened the economy, injured a large share of voters who feel the promises of that referendum were never delivered, and turned the ruling party into an easy target for internal revolts the moment anything went wrong. None of this stays contained as internal political drama. It has a real price tag, and the whole country pays it. In May 2026, yields on 30-year British government bonds climbed above 5.8%, the highest level in almost 3 decades. In plain terms, the less investors trust a country's political stability, the more it costs to government to borrow money. And those costs eventually land on the budget and on taxpayers. Britain's business confidence index hit a record low in March 2026, and surveys found more than a third of small businesses expect to close or shrink within the year. According to a survey of international investors, political instability ranked as the second biggest reason they're hesitant to put money into Britain, beaten only by high energy costs. So outside the country, this isn't seen as a harmless quirk. It can create economic risk that foreign companies factor in when deciding where to invest. It matters for the rest of the world too. Britain remains a permanent member of the UN Security Council, a key NATO partner, and one of the world's major financial centers. When a partner changes leadership almost every year, Allies like the US and the UAE find it harder to build long-term agreements because a new prime minister can walk back a deal his predecessor signed off on just a year earlier. Burnham himself took an unusual path to get here. Almost a decade ago, he left national politics to become a mayor of Greater Manchester, a region in northern England, and earned the nickname Kind of the North for fighting hard for the region against the central government, especially during the pandemic. He only returned to parliament a few weeks ago after winning a special election, and almost immediately after that, he took over both his party and the country. In his first speech this morning, he was unusually honest for a moment like this. He said politicians of his generation need to seriously raise their game and that the British public has every right to feel let down because politicians simply haven't been good enough. He called his appointment a circuit breaker for the country and promised a 10-year plan for stability. Here's the problem. Almost every one of his predecessors over the last 10 years opened with nearly identical words. Promising to restore order after the last guy's chows has become something close to ritual in British politics. Although, honestly, politicians probably say that in every country. Whether Andy Burnham actually becomes the circuit breaker that stops this cycle or just becomes the eighth name on this list a year or two from now, only time will tell. Let me know what you think in the comments and drop your ideas for what I should cover next. I'll read every one.